Hi guys, I'm going to share a story about when I was stuck in Europe during the 2020 pandemic and how I managed to get back to the United States after 6 months of solo backpacking across Southeast Asia. So I had taken essentially a gap year. I had at the time quit my job and I decided to travel for a year across Southeast Asia. And my goal was to do 1 month in each country, as in travel across the country for a month each. And I was just kind of winging it, and some of it I had planned prior before my trip, but a lot of it I was kind of winging it on one-way tickets because I'm highly spontaneous, and this was like in my 20s, actually my late 20s, when I was highly motivated and a lot more spontaneous than I am now. But basically what happened was I was in Southeast Asia. I had done 1 month in Thailand. Well, before that, a couple weeks in India, 1 month in Thailand, 1 month in Vietnam, a couple weeks in Cambodia, a few days in Singapore, a week or a few days in Malaysia, I think 2 weeks in Bali, and then a couple days in the Philippines. And I was supposed to keep traveling. And what happened was at that time, there were words of the global pandemic. So actually, when I was even in like Cambodia, I remember walking by this river. I forget if it was Siem Reap or Phnom Penh. Maybe it was Siem Reap. I went to both places, but it was probably that river in Siem Reap. It was like one of the longest rivers in Southeast Asia. But I was walking along the riverbank, just like dancing and singing, eating. I had like a cheese pizza, and I was just jolly in my own little world. And at that time they were passing out masks, like the local health department or a bunch of students, I guess. And I was like, mask, who knows, okay, I'll take some. I thought it was for the allergies because it was so dusty, and I was like, yeah, people take precautions. Like in Vietnam, for instance, people would wear like a mask or like a scarf to cover their faces because of the pollution. So I thought it was something similar. I didn't really think too much of it. And it was not like I was watching the news. I was backpacking. And yeah, so I just kept going with my travels, and there were like no really red flags or anything. And then but by the time I got to the Philippines, so like fast forward like a month later, is when it really started to be concerning, because that's when people were the news was spreading that the WHO has declared a pandemic, COVID-19 and the coronavirus and all of that. And me being in Southeast Asia, it's Asia, and a lot of things were being shut down and airlines were canceling flights. So I managed to get a flight from the Philippines to get to the Western world, at least. So I flew from Cebu to did I fly to Portugal? Yeah. I got to Lisbon, and then I got an Airbnb there, and I was staying for a week or two. I forget, maybe a couple weeks. Yeah, because I was waiting on more news of what's going on. I was like, do I need to completely cancel this trip? Because, like I said, my plan was to travel for a year, and I had saved up money, planned all the logistics, and my goal was like this really long trip where I wasn't just doing adventurous activities that I am known to do, but I was also volunteering and helping NGOs, animal sanctuaries, and like childhood cancer NGOs, and donating things to the underserved, underprivileged people around the world. So for me, it was really a spiritual quest, and I wasn't getting anything out of it. I was getting no profit. I wasn't making any money out of this. I could have been working in the state making bank, but instead I was volunteering my time helping people and animals around the world. And that was such a soul calling of mine, like something I felt like I had to do. And not many people can relate to that. um, I don't think anyone really realizes how spiritual that was for me. And it was just something between myself and God and the universe, which I don't talk about much. Again, I got not a single dollar out of it. I wrote blogs, then I even published a book from it, and I've made videos and whatnot. Back then, I started social media and all. I didn't make any money off of that. Even the books, like I made maybe like $10 because the publishing company took all the money. So it was like I didn't do it for profit. I did it because I wanted to help the world, and I believe in women empowerment, and that's why I did that. But anyway, I wanted to keep on doing that. But obviously, you need time, funds, the safety, and the physical ability to do that. And at that point, with the pandemic being declared, I decided it was in my best interest to fly back to the States before the European Union shut down, because by that point, I was in Portugal at that Airbnb in Lisbon. And luckily, I was surrounded by some nice people. The Airbnb host was a really sweet couple with kids who was very hospitable to me, kind to me. I think I was the only one in that Airbnb who had like a private bathroom, and I felt special because everyone else was sharing a bathroom. And I got to a point in my trip where I did not want to share a bathroom with anyone, so I got done with hostels. I'm like, no more hostels, please. Only private villas and Airbnbs and hotels and guest houses. So I was really fortunate in that aspect, that I was surrounded by good people, and the other travelers in that Airbnb, they were so sweet. And this one guy, he was actually Israeli, I think. It was his first solo trip ever, and he was stranded in a global pandemic in Europe. That was so sad. And his wife was back home in Israel, and they were both in the military or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, that's how they met. But he was solo traveling because I guess he had ancestry in Portugal or something, so he wanted to like explore his roots, which I thought was so beautiful. Like, going to your grandparents' land. Like, I know what that feels like. I've been to my grandparents' land in India. Like, I completely get that. I think that's so special. And then for the world to shut down like that, poor guy. Like, he was separated from his wife in their country, I guess. I don't know, but like it was so sad. I felt so sad for him and his wife, and he was just telling me how much he missed her, and he was acting like this gentleman of a brother to me, and he would go and get fresh vegetables, and he was such a good cook, so he would cook for everyone in that Airbnb. So he cooked for me like for like a week I was there, and I felt so well taken care of. That way I didn't have to go to the market or go shopping as much, although I did to get some chocolates for myself and explore where I could, where it was safe. But like, he kept me safe, and I even got to talk to his wife on the phone. He did a video call with her, and he's like, oh, like, look at this a nurse who's like, been taking care of me. I mean, all I did was take his blood pressure because I had my blood pressure cuff and stethoscope on me since I was volunteering abroad. But he was like, he thought that was so sweet of me, and I'm like, I didn't really do anything. I just took your blood pressure and give you some health advice. But he's there like cooking me gourmet 5-course meals 3 times a day, and introduced me to his wife, and I felt so taken care of. So I made like some of the most special type of friends traveling, who I've never seen ever again in my life. But I felt like in those moments it was like my soul tribe. You've formed that deep connection with someone you just met abroad, and then you never see them again. And he was one of those people, like God sent. I still think of him as an angel. In fact, I wonder if his name was Angel. But I remember writing in my journal before I met him in the kitchen trying to light a stove, because I'm not a good cook, and I could not figure out how to turn that thing on. And I remember writing in my journal, I'm like, God, universe, send me an angel, because the pandemic is here and I'm scared, I'm alone. And next thing I know, I meet this gentleman in the kitchen who took care of me like an angel. And I wished him well, and I gave him a lot of my remaining supplies before I left, just to help him out, because a lot of the stores were closing and I knew I was flying back to the States. And he was so thankful. He was so thankful. Like, we were so teary-eyed. I could saying goodbye. And yeah, and then I got a last-minute flight back to the United States, and counted my blessings. And the next day or a couple days later, the European Union shut down or closed its borders or something. There were very limited flights. Even my flight back to the States, I had 3 rows to myself because we were all quarantining. That's how little passengers were allowed. So I survived a global pandemic traveling across the world after my 6-month backpacking trip. such a crazy story. And I feel like I lived to, I don't know, I lived for a purpose. I did my purpose. I did my mission on earth. And I feel so blessed. So I thought I would share, because the world is going through another crisis situation now, it seems. There's always something going on, but as all the flights are being closed, or airspaces are being closed and canceled, it reminded me of my story from the pandemic. How I literally flew across the world from Southeast Asia to Europe to the United States as the pandemic was being declared in the spring of 2020. And then I published my book on it in summer of 2020.